Yes, we are yet again here on a Monday, and we don't, of course, disappoint you. We're talking about cricket.com's regular weekly cricket podcast, Monday Night Live with me, Avnish Hegde. And of course, as you can see, it takes us the other two people, which is Akshay Swami and Nikhil Popa, to join us and make sense of all things cricket this week. The Asia Cup starts next month on the 9th of September, but we're here to, of course, predict and guess what could be India's squad going into that tournament. Apparently, reports suggest that they could just drop the squad through a press release. The BCCI normally been doing press conferences off late. They've said to hell with that for this time around. We're just going to announce it potentially on a Tuesday night, but we're going to speculate tonight. And of course, later on in the show, we're going to be talking about all things West Indies cricket with guys who know the Caribbean quite well. The Caribbean Cricket Podcast join us in a bit. I think one guy is out, Santoki, but Machel will join us and make good time with so many things coming out of the Caribbean. But first and foremost, my lads, how are you? Nikhil, I'll start with you because I know Akshay again is on his travels and I don't know where he is, but I'll probably play a guessing game with him. Nikhil, how are you? How's your Independence Day weekend, bud?
Doing very good. Touch would be taking some time off. Not, of course, watching cricket white with the Sony Live app. Always the open, no brand promotions. Yeah, just sharing facts. But good to have some time off. Good people, family people, they always take care of you. Even when you don't give enough time, when you give them time, they're always ready. So, of course, it's a privileged job, but I think they play a handy role, and these are good times to just thank them. And I'll clip this out just for them. Thank you.
Lovely. That's very kind. Anything that you watched this weekend or you ate in particular, people would like to know?
No, we just played a lot of games with daughter and wife, and of course the family, good family time together. Because weekends, now that you are a father, weekends are the only time when the entire family, and I live in a joint family. So 8 to 9 of us, proper chaos, but we love chaos now. So yeah.
Yeah, chaos is the new sort of trend going on, but we're everyone's soaking into it. Akshay, now let me play a game with you. Where are you in the UK? Give me clues in terms of sporting clues.
Sporting clues. Okay, let us see.
Sorry, there is a hint of it in the Howzzaat question.
What is the Howzzaat question? I forgot what is today's Howzzaat question for a bit, but okay. Think. Oh yeah. Last week's Howzzaat question is a clear giveaway. Yeah. There you go.
It's a clear giveaway. Okay, so is it Ireland then?
Yes.
Well done, man. Yeah. Well done. So you're proper in Dublin, soaking in all the Guinness?
Yeah, I'm not in Dublin right now. I'm in Cork. So my cousin stays over here. I also went to Galway. I've been here for about a week. A friend of our podcast, Darshan, lives in Galway. Shout out to him. A great host, was at his place. We both spent some time together. We discussed RCB, we discussed all things IPL, and ate loads of food, truckloads of food. So it's been a fantastic week or so in Ireland, and yeah, I'll be here for a couple more days before heading back to Avnish's truly Manchester.
So you've done pretty much Scotland, England, Ireland. Wales not in the agenda?
No, unfortunately not. Bristol's the closest I got to Wales. I did have plans, but I think because at some point in time, I need to look at my wallet as well, because my wallet's crying for some help.
Yeah. So, he spent more time than a lot of subcontinental teams spend in their tours on UK. But yeah, that's just...
but उन्हीं की तरह मेरा भी accommodation का खर्चा नहीं है ना. I have my sisters, my friends. I've made sure. Like, that's the only way. Or it's नहीं तो बहुत बड़ा. I mean, I've already spent truckloads just thinking of how much more I would have had to spend had I had to take care of everything by myself. Yeah, it's yeah. But shout out to
clever.
A great host, of course.
Yeah, clever way to kind of get around the UK, especially with Chandan Ramya. I mentioned a man who featured in our show not too long ago. So Chandan, plenty of love from our side as well. And yeah, I mean, great trip. I mean, essentially, you've been soaking it all from there. Weather-wise, also, you can probably feel the dip coming down. But let me start with the whole Asia Cup this time around with you, Akshay, because all reports, bro. First and foremost, like me as a football fan, I have some legitimate sources in the football world. So if Fabrizio Romano, your Laurie Whitwell, all these guys are kind of have that credit in the bank to believe then. Do we as Indian cricket fans have any sources that we can kind of be like, you know what, these guys are right? Whether it's Dainik Jagran, Indian Express, so on and so forth. Do you believe in following any of those sources? Do you follow anyone on X?
See, given how the platform works now, you don't need to follow anyone to get these updates. They anyway show up on your feed every other day. So there's no point. So I don't know how many of them do I actually follow, like how many of them have I pressed the follow button on, but they show up on my feed. And yeah, in the last day or so, the kind of updates that I've been getting, which is why I had to sort of verify with you guys, these are the updates and these are all unverified, right? None of them have, all of these are speculative. But yeah, apart from that, talking about people and all, it's not very organized like football, to be honest. And unfortunately, a lot of these reports are through leaks, and you don't know, some of them might be just speculative, where people are making up things in their head for engagement and all of it. So I don't necessarily follow anyone in particular. What I do is follow the wisdom of the crowd. If a lot of these reporters are reporting the same thing, for instance, a lot of them have now reported that the Women's World Cup announcement, squad announcement will be done tomorrow by way of a press conference, while the men's squad for the Asia Cup won't have a press conference announcement. So when multiple people report the same thing, okay, that there is some truth to it. If it's just one odd reporter, then I tend to hold my horses, having burnt my hands previously. So yeah, that's how I go about it.
Before I
KL
get into
something?
the
Sorry.
I don't know who's
Go on.
KL. I don't know why.
Yeah, I remember that calamity. I mean, I think MNL viewers remember it well. I'm asking the viewers tonight a lot of questions. The first of which, tell us who you guys believe in terms of sources, because there are facts on the table, which is tomorrow or this week, we'll definitely get the news. It's as tournament mandate suggests that you have to kind of send in your team. So we'll know who features and who doesn't. Meanwhile, Shashwat saying hi, and Santosh Shilpa saying, is this Caribbean podcast the same account that is on X? It is. So give them some love as well. We'll drop their links in the description. Glory, Califlori saying, shoutout Malik. I mean, he's making me remind myself about the weekend, which I was happy about with football starting and stuff. But United, the better team, losing to a set piece Arsenal. But look, we'll come to that later in the show. Hi, everyone saying jealous broccoli. And this is my playing 11 for Asia Cup. Tell us what you guys think. I want to know about your inclusions and exclusions. And that was my question to start off this topic in a very 10-15 minute chat, because we do have a guest tonight. So, Nix, the floor is yours. The report suggests Gill going to be rested after 5 test matches, understandable. And they're pretty much going to go with the same look and feel of what we've seen in the last 12 months, pretty much, of India in T20 internationals. Are you game with that? Do you think they should bring back the big boys, so-called the Gill and the Siraj and all of them?
It's a different line of thought. There is a test series to happen very immediately in a very short period of time after the Asia Cup. So I think it's about time we start and go ahead with those separate pools bit. I know there are a few things to tick mark in terms of your third pacer. Now I say third pacer because to me Bumrah and Arshdeep are my first, second pacers in the T20 form. So the third pacer at this point of time, I have a name which I'll take in the coming time. But I think it's fair if Siraj stays out, focuses, rehabs, gets time off the game, and spends it to get ready for the test series that is coming up. With Gill, I think he'll eventually make it to the squad, but maybe now isn't the right time. And it just makes the series very, very interesting, because now you almost see everybody is on the hot roof that, if the opener doesn't fire, if the keeper doesn't fire, there is an alternate to the number 3. There is an alternate to the misfiring number 5. So I think it gives more context to what should usually be just a straightforward tournament for India. But I can straightforward say, mera matlab hai the squad, not the results. After New Zealand, no predicting results ever. Thank you. Is it just me or?
Oh, damn it. Sorry, my bad. I said Nick's had his piece there. Akshay, what's your take on it? Gill, Siraj rested for the Asia Cup, but do you think they're part of bigger T20 plans, given the fact that India's road to the World Cup starts pretty much this tournament, building for that Feb 2026 fixture? How do you think it's all going to unfold? Because we've seen what Abhishek Sharma can do in T20 international colours. Sanju Samson probably will open with him, and that's the preferred pair. Arshdeep, I love him, and he's rightly the leading wicket taker for India in this format. What are your ins and outs, so to speak?
When it comes to Siraj and Gill, to be honest, firstly, Siraj, I'm happy that he's being rested. Couldn't care lesser about him taking part in a tournament that, again, there's no global relevance to it. Sure, we all want to see India win, and I understand that, but you have enough options. It's not like the gulf between Siraj and the options available is too wide. In fact, Arshdeep Singh is an upgrade in a lot of ways, given what he brings to the table. A left armer, all phase bowler, importantly, someone who can move the ball in the air, and we've seen, his pyrotechnics in this format, like Avni said, highest wicket taker for India when it comes to T20Is. With Gill, I don't know, man. We've seen a history of India wanting all format superstars. We've seen Virat Kohli, we've seen Rohit Sharma. Now Shubman Gill seems to be following, that trend. At least not Shubman Gill himself. The selectors would be following that trend should they go ahead with Shubman Gill. And I'm not a big fan of someone being picked just because he's a captain of the test side or he's a short starter in the other two formats. And once again, my question to everyone who wants to bring Shubman Gill, including the selectors, is who goes out? It's very easy to say that you want this person in, and there's so many such names that we can talk about. I don't think Sanju Samson warrants an axe. I don't think even Abhishek Sharma warrants an axe for that matter. Now, my own personal bias aside, I'm not the biggest fan of Abhishek Sharma, but I still know that he's done enough for Team India to, sort of hold on to his spot. So all things said and done, I really want India to look at separate talent pools, separate skippers even for different formats. Sky, Hardik Pandya, you've already got two leaders. One can be the deputy. In this case, Hardik being the leader and Sky being the deputy. I think that's taken care of. I want them to stick to it and simply not, force fit Shubman Gill into the setup just because he's India's test captain. And numbers and all, yeah, there's so many batters who will have to miss out. So, yeah, it is unfortunate, but that's the name of the game.
It is. Sometimes you just have to acknowledge also India is just an amazing talent pool. And like I think Casing points out in the comments, it is different people for different formats. We've been crying that out. And I think that gets the best out of people as well. I mean, hello, sorry. Can you hear me? You probably second guess in terms of how things will probably pan out with Abhishek Sharma maybe being the sacrificial goat there, but I wouldn't like to see it because he can offer things with the ball. Arshdeep Singh, I think with him, their leadership naturally falls on him, being the spear of the attack. I think they will rest Bumrah for this competition. I think they'll rest Siraj as well. And I know that's two proper quicks that you're resting, but I don't see that much of a prominence of this year's Asia Cup. Nix, I could be wrong. Do you think they are going to put all their eggs in this basket, sort of thing?
I think they will definitely want to win the tournament. That I think goes without saying. And see, the next thing that Bumrah is going to play after that, if it's decided it's not a test series, then they might want to see him play the white ball format. And again, workloads are better managed for people in the T20 format. So then why not go down that route? So I think Siraj, I genuinely feel, as Akshay said, it is a good time for him because it's done enough for India to just get that time off. And it is important. This is not about any other priority, but just good rest. So that is good for Siraj. For Bumrah, I genuinely hope he plays because otherwise, if you're not playing him, then play somebody that who you want to build as a backup to the T20 World Cup. If it is Prasidh Krishna, so that was the name that I was wanting to see. If he's the guy who goes on as the third pacer, if he's the guy that they want to trust on, with Arshdeep, go ahead, do it. See what happens in a slightly more global tournament that you might want to check out. So that is okay. But otherwise, just don't do it for the sake of it. So they just have to be very clear what to do with Bumrah after the Asia Cup. Does he play the test? If yes, then he should not be
playing. That is a good question. I want to ask you about the other elephant in the room, Akshay. Shreyas Iyer. Everyone's talking about him coming in potentially for a Tilak Varma. And I know Tilak's not done anything wrong because he's got some fantastic numbers. Where do you see that story go?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. There's a decent argument to be made for both players. I personally would stick with Tilak Varma because just like how the Indian law says that until, proven otherwise, everyone is innocent. Just like that, for me, the burden of proof lies with someone coming in and not someone going out. So Tilak Verma has done enough to hold on to his spot. That's how I look at it. I won't look at how much Shreyas Iyer has done to come in, because if Tilak Verma has to go out, that means he should have been out of form, or he should have done badly, the last time he played for Team India. That's not the case. Moreover, there's also the bias that comes in for me. Personally, I do believe that we need a left-hander in the middle order, because I don't see Rinku Singh playing and Abhishek Sharma. We do have at the top. We've got Akshay Patel, coming in at number 6, number 7. So three left-handers in our top 7. I think that's a nice mix over there. And not just that, like apart from him being a left-hander, he's also great batter, both against pace, against spin. He's got that all-round game that we always look for. He's got those gears. We all remember the knock that he played against RCB this season. And yeah, somewhere I think we need to, give him enough of a rope, because you cannot simply take him out just because Shreyas Iyer has done well, because that also sets the wrong precedent for everyone else. Then where do you draw the line? Who is secure about the spots? Because every other tournament, you will see someone doing well outside, so do you then keep bringing everyone in? I don't think so. Again, very harsh on Shreyas Iyer. I completely get that, because he had a crazy IPL, both as a captain and a player. So I completely get why people would want him. I completely get should the selectors also go ahead with him. But I personally would want Tilak Verma to be given a long enough rope. And also he's young. So from a long-term perspective, not that Shreyas Iyer is any old. But yeah, I would, all things said and done, still stick to Tilak Verma. Just one more thing about Bumrah before we talk about, the batter conundrum. If Bumrah doesn't come in, what are the other pace options, Nikhil bhai, you're looking at? Like, if let's assume that Arshdeep Singh is the one pacer, Hardik Pandya will be the third pacer. So, as a second pace option, who do you think it could be? I'm assuming Nikhil bhai is stuck. Avnish, what are your thoughts on that?
Apparently, the rumors are saying Prasid, bro. I don't really buy into that thought. I feel
Oh my
like they
goodness.
can look elsewhere. My
Avnish, are you one of
concern
the
is
selectors?
where. No, I would never put Prasid in a T20 international shirt for India. I'll be very honest with you. As much as I love him, I think I will really kind of invest in someone else. And with all due respect to Prasid, he's not even a T20 international bowler, even though he has certain good IPL games to remember. My question, Akshay, is how do you kind of infuse the new energy we saw in IPL 2025 going into that 2026 World Cup? Someone like a Vipraj Nigam, who we kind of have talked about in this podcast, who is a good wrist spinner. I don't know how his numbers are for the Delhi Premier League. You probably could enlighten me about that. Nix has gone off. But
One off, no
do you want
worries.
to see any new kind of entrance into this T20 international team, given that we're about 10, 15, T20s before the World Cup starts, bro?
Vipraj Nigam is definitely one guy I'm looking at. In fact, the 11 that I have in mind has Vipraj starting, for Team India at the Asia Cup itself. Number 8, I think he's done more than enough. And DPL, when he plays the UP T20 League, haven't had enough time to catch up on it yet. But I'm pretty sure, I would do that, in due course. But talking about who else would I see? There are a lot of names who did well this IPL. Someone like a Shashank Singh, even Ashutosh Sharma won a few games for DC. But given what sort of vacancies we have or where we are looking at, I think Vipraj Nigam at number 8, along with Kuldeep Yadav and Akshar Patel. Oh, that's also the DC troika. Come to think of it, I think that's a great spin troika to have, because I'm pretty sure our pacers. I mean, since Bumrah, I'm assuming won't be playing. Arshdeep, Hardik, and whoever that other pacer is, Harshit Rana, not Siraj, Harshit Rana, Prasidh Krishna, or if they go to an entirely different team, I don't think that pace attack is very strong. That's why you would want your spin attack to shore up their reserves. And Vipraj Nigam, Kuldeep Yadav, and Akshar Patel, I think that's a very good combination to have. So Vipraj at number 8 also lends to that batting. Vipraj 8, Kuldeep Yadav 9, then 10, 11. You've got the two pacers coming in. I think that would really sort of that adds a nice flow from the batting to bowling. He'll be a great bridge. He can be a collapse arrester. He can also be someone who can come up with those cameos when needed. He can also be a backup finisher, so to say, behind number 7, number 6, whoever it is. So Vipraj is definitely someone who should be handed a debut in the Asia Cup.
Okay. Casey asking what happened to Harshit playing test. Reckon he could have done a better job than Kamboj and other bowlers. I mean, that is moved on, but Harshit could come back for the T20s international. I mean, who knows? Sai is also asking, is Siraj there in Asia Cup or is he reserved for test matches only? Right now, the workload in Siraj, they might just give him some slack and be like, rest it out, buddy. No problem whatsoever. Imagine, I mean, what it is to kind of play T20s right now for India, because the last time you look at when we played T20s was against England earlier this year, and India won that game, that 50-20 international, pretty handsomely, 150 runs. Next, I'll read out that team for you. Tell me if you want these people to stay in your team or not for the Asia Cup. Sanju Samson,
Yeah, of course, yes.
Abhishek Sharma,
Yes,
Tilak Verma,
yes,
Sky is captain,
yep.
Shivam Dubey,
Not sure.
Hardik Pandya,
By default.
Rinku Singh,
Again, not sure.
Akshay Patel,
Obviously, yes.
Mohammad Shami,
No,
Bishnoi,
no.
and finally Varun Chakravarti.
Of course, yes.
Fair. So now by going what Nix has said, Akshay, and what your point is also kind of marrying it into each other, is the fact that we have 8 to 9 proper starters from that lineup, and maybe we can infuse 1 or 2, having rested Bumrah, of course, because I feel Bumrah comes back for the World Cup regardless. I'm not sure so sure about Gill or Siraj or any of the other boys. So I feel like that's going to probably be the nuts and bolts of this squad for Asia Cup. But Nick's final thoughts with you. Any surprises we're going to see? Because when you disappeared, we were discussing Vipraj Nigam, who could probably come in. Will Prasidh Krishna magically feature? Any random entrants do you see Asia Cup this time around?
If Vipraj was the name that I wanted to take, I have absolutely no clue what happened. I just saw myself stuck and just had to restart the system for that. So apologies for that. But yeah, I think Vipraj and Prasidh are the two names. I genuinely feel the IPL form will play a role, especially with Prasidh. And again, as I said, all I want is role clarity. If he's the guy, then don't just pick him for the next two series, but hold and stay with him till the World Cup. That's the only thing that I would want to see. I will not be surprised if we see Sundar back. I don't even know if I can say back. I think Sundar will be part of the setup, and that is what makes me very unsure of who starts between Shivam, Rinku, and Sundar. Because if you see, that is the kind of role that I feel is something that can be played by him. Because what I have started to realize, or maybe it's just me, that I don't think Akshay is a great six. I feel Akshay is a far better five. So in that sense, I maybe feel there is scope for Akshay to come up the order and then leave the finishing skills for somebody else. But then even Sundar qualifies for the same role as Akshay is in terms of with the bat, because Sundar also has some limitations. So that is the one place that I'm not quite sure of, and I'm very interested to see if India go down there too.
But why are we fixated on Washi? Like, to be honest, I don't see
No,
Washi
no,
start.
not me. No, not me. Not me.
Ah,
I'm
oh.
just saying he could be part of the set.
Like,
Not
how is your 11 looking like? Because for me, when it comes to the all-rounders, I've got Akshay and Vipraj as my two spin all-rounders and Hardik as a pace bowling all-rounder. I think that also sorts my 5, 6, 7 or 6, 7, 8 based on whether they want another batter or another
you know
bowler.
Kuldeep.
I have Kuldeep. So I'm going for a Troika. Oh, okay. No. I
That is
just
a catch.
realized and I'll have 4 spinners.
That is a catch. वही तो
Oh,
इसीलिए तो I was not sure के how will they go about it, because if they get the, say if Sundar के बदले निगम भी आ गया, even then there is that catch that how do you play with Kuldeep in with that setup?
no, but given Kambir's history with Kuldeep, KKR ho, Team India ho, he's clearly not backed Kuldeep so much. And Kuldeep, unfortunately, did not have the greatest of IPLs. And again, this is just me playing devil's advocate. Uh, I mean, it's not entirely, how do I put it? Entirely impossible or
Can
implausible
shift to
for
US. Okay.
no, for Vipraj to start over Kuldeep, or maybe Kuldeep can be rested, or Vipraj in the need to give Vipraj a chance, because we've already established the fact that Gambhir is, sort of the founder of All Rounder FC. उनको चाहिए भाई
ठीक
all-rounder.
है, फाउंडर और ऑलराउंडर एफसी में लेट एडमिशन है वो, But I would still say if
Late
Kuldeep has
founder.
to be rested after an entire England series, then I think there is a lot to be done.
Yeah. No, but
Yeah, I mean, go on.
no, fair, because by my own logic, Kuldeep hasn't done anything to warrant an axe. So that's there. But I also then again Washi just goes out. You play four spinners. It's okay. You play four spinners, you have, and again, I don't think the fourth spinner is coming at the cost of the pacers or an additional bowler. Like the fourth Abhay yaar, kya kar. Okay, I'm sorry. Apologies. Freya Kemp has just stupidly run herself out. But for me, when it comes to the bowling options, I'll have Arshdeep Singh for sure. I've got Kaun hai bhai, Hardik Pandya. Prasidh Krishna, I'm still, in two minds because he had a fantastic IPL, but that test series has definitely, left a very bitter aftertaste, so to say. So there's those three there. You've got three pacers. And then if you have Varun, Kuldeep, Akshay and Vipraj Nigam, I think that's a very good bowling lineup. Yeah. I don't see why Vipraj can't play over Washi and have you play both Kuldeep and Vipraj both. So I think that's definitely possible. So I'll have Kuldeep and I agree with Dhruv. I don't think no. Then I don't agree with Dhruv. I think Kuldeep should play because again he's been really good for Delhi, for Team India. So there's no reason for him to go out.
The thing is, when the World Cup comes around, for sure, Arshdeep and Bumrah start as two pacers. Depending on conditions, Hardik becomes the automatic third pacers, and then the spinners that Akshay kind of spoke about kind of fits in perfectly with Akshay there, Kuldeep there, and then maybe Varun Chakravarti being the only kind of let down with the bat in hand, but India still have batting depth over there. Just to close out this Asia Cup chat and wait for Machel from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, that is. If you guys don't know, you know now. We'll just close out with some of your comments. Dhruv saying, I don't think Kuldeep will not play. Don't mix formats. Kuldeep has been a regular in white ball matches. From where has Vipraj come into the conversation? We were talking about how India could probably go in with a batting wrist spinner, and India don't have that right now. As much as we love Kuldeep and we like Varun Chakravarti, we don't have a batting wrist spinner. And I think that's a very important subtlety in modern T20s. Shashwat saying, Sanju 1, Tilak 2, Tilak 2 and 3. How can you be 2 and 3, mate? I mean, essentially, I think you've gone for maybe Abhishek there as your opener. And then 5, you have a plethora of options. Dubey, Reddy, Parag, Jitesh, Rinku. Again, whether Jitesh fills in as the finisher, only time will tell. Kasing adding to the conversation, saying surely 4 overs of matches and a workload for precious Bumrah. I don't know if they really look at this tournament as it like, we're going to win it. Sure, India go into any tournament saying that we'll want to win it, but they can probably win it without Bumrah as well, with the other squads kind of being floated about right now. If given a choice between promoting Washi and Akshay at 5, GG will promote Washi and let Akshay bat at 8. He did the same in the England T20 International Series. I mean, he's obsessed with the batting of spinner, and I understand that qualm from Team India's perspective that they want an offie, but so many people can just turn their arm over. If you play at Parag, I know he's obviously not a brilliant off spinner like Sundar, but that some sort of leverage you have to do with that. Dr. Gautam saying Krunal Pandya, or asking, would you take Krunal Pandya, Rajat Patidar, any of your boys, just Dayal?
Yes, Dayal to bhai UP T20 league ke liye banned hai. I really hope somewhere, RCB please take cognizance of this. But anyways, Krunal Pandya, again, great bowler, but if you're looking at Krunal Pandya for Akshar Patel's role, it's Akshar Patel's, man. Come on, like he is the only true all-rounder between the two. Krunal is more of a bowling all-rounder who can bat at number 8. So if anything, I would say Krunal would be competing for Kuldeep's spot, not Akshar's spot. He cannot bat at number 5. So, and between Krunal and Kuldeep, I'll have Kuldeep for now.
Okay, Kasing also saying, true, but there is a balance.
Oh, wow. Avnish is successfully
Something is up. Something is up with the net today. Matlab, I have
but
been.
Shashwat also, by the way, going on to say, given a choice between, of course, we took this. Kasing saying true, but there is a balance to have between keeping Bumrah in a good rhythm and not resting him too much to keep his match sharpness. Don't think he should play any of the home tests. One thing we need to understand, Kasing, is India will be playing 15 T20Is ahead of the World Cup. From November, India will be playing a 5 T20I series versus South Africa, a 5 T20I series versus Australia, a 5 T20I series versus New Zealand. They've got 15 T20Is ahead of the World Cup. So I don't think, I mean, you might have a million problems with Bumrah, but him not getting enough game time ahead of the World Cup won't be one of them. And we are right now a good 8 months, 6 months away from the World Cup. We're fresh off a test series. Bumrah himself is fresh off an injury that he's nursing. So there's no reason why Bumrah needs to play now, and you don't need to worry about him not being fit enough or him being too rusty. We've seen that before as well, that every time he's come back just like before.
Okay. If we missed any of the Asia Cup comments, apologies. We'll take them in the 12th man section for sure. Machel tells me he's going to be joining in a bit. He's just going through some troubles with internet. Asia Cup news, sticking with it, but across the border, apparently Rizwan Babar not going to make it, and Mike Hesson has just taken a brutal stance, citing his particular weakness to spin. Akshay, Babar Azam, his strike rate, I think since Jan 2022 or thereabouts, has been just over 110, 120 there. So there's clear reason for why Hesson wants to move past Babar, even though he's encouraged him to go play the BBL and then come back. Do you think now probably Pakistan could have some new energy at the top to replace these two stalwarts, just people who can come in and do a job for them?
Man, see, firstly, I think a lot has been made of it because if you look at it, these two haven't played a T20I this year. Every series, like the one that even they played versus West Indies, the one that they played before, I'm forgetting who the opposition was, but yeah, they've not played. So it's okay. And with Hesson, one thing, at least from my little experience of having even spoken to him or having seen him work, I would still back him, when it comes to setting process and everything. And we know the kind of chaos that he might have to deal with when it comes to PCB and Pakistan cricket in general. So for him to take such a bold call, I just hope that they give him enough, enough of a backing. When I say they, I'm talking about the think tank, I'm talking about the management itself, because yeah, he is someone who's shown time and time again that he can come up with processes, he can build squads from scratch. It's just that consistency is needed, and given that Pakistan side had already not featured either of these two this year, so I can see that they are looking at those sides, and accordingly they've been training as well. Be the West Indies series that just happened, there are enough options already, in terms of Sam Ayub and how some of the players have performed right now in the recent past. So I mean, I'm not going to make much of it. I think it is the right call because we've all rightfully criticized both of them, for their lack of striking ability or for their lower strike rates, to put it very precisely. So yeah, I mean, it was expected, I guess.
Yeah, they didn't feature in that West Indies series, like you said, and they won the series. So there's plenty of positives over there. Speaking of the West Indies, we will talk about them in greater depth once our friend from the Caribbean joins, because I think he's now just trying to figure out his internet. Will be with us in a bit. And we can move on to other things that we want to talk about in this MNL podcast. In fact, there is tons of things going on with Australia, South Africa, and we can move on to the best of the rest and probably get the guest on when he joins us. Let's go. Right. Like I said, lots of cricket going on. I mean, the CPL has started, which we'll again talk about with those boys. And the 100 as well is something we'll sprinkle some light on. But Australia, South Africa first. We'll talk about that final T20 international where Glenn Maxwell turned back the clock, Akshay, and RCB man would have loved to have him. But of course, it's a twilight career he's going through right now. And what a game, what an end. Did you see the highlights or did you just check out the scorecard, Akshay?
I saw only Maxwell's knock because everyone was raving about it online. So that was it. Didn't catch much of the game. But yeah, good on him. They were what, 110, 120 for seven. And from there, single handedly for him to take Australia through. Again, Maxwell doing Maxwell things. In fact, just recently, I started reading his autobiography that came out last year. So you could see why a lot of other players, with proven pedigree themselves rate Maxwell so highly. In fact, Pat Cummins sort of has mentioned in his forward, in that autobiography, that I've not seen anyone do the kind of things Maxwell has done on the field. So that's high praise. And something similar was said by Virat Kohli too. So again, we know he's got the talent. It's just that, yeah, unfortunately, he was never able to marry it with consistency. But it comes with the kind of approach that he has, man. High reward, high risk. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll be interesting to see how Australia and South Africa's T20 international squads go into that World Cup. But again, great cricket throughout the series. Tim David, we spoke about him and his Herculean efforts. And also, I feel with regards to things panning out for South Africa, really quickly, just to wrap up this story before we are joined by the Caribbean boys. Nick, going into that ODI series, what is something that you're going to look at? Bavuma and Mitch Marsh were doing some good photo opportunities for the media. A beautiful background of Cairns as well. What do we expect from this series? Because it starts tomorrow, Tuesday.
Yeah, hoping for a Brevis debut and a very good show. I genuinely sense a very crazy fifer and a very good century. I'm not saying it'll happen tomorrow only. If it happens tomorrow, then by sub, I need to do something about it. But Abhigale, that is what I'm looking forward to because there is, I think I loved Quena. We spoke about it in the last MNL as well. Brevis's form has been very good in the domestic one day cup. He was one of the highest scorers. So he has been in good one day form. And again, it's always good to see ODIs in Australia with the change rule. Okay, after the 34th over, we'll see just one ball. Reverse has come into the picture. We saw that happen in the West Indies series as well. So it's going to be very, very interesting because both these sides have good enough pacers. You have Bartlett, who's going to be in the squad. Very keen to see if he gets a go because Dwashes, I feel, is good for T20s, but one day, as we don't know, we'll have to see more of. Hardy didn't do much in the T20 that he played. So with Hazelwood and Zampa, there is no Stark and Cummins. So I'm very keen to see who fills that role for Australia. And for South Africa, I want to see if they play Mulder and Bosch both. Because I don't see the space for both of them. Because there is Bretsky at 4, Bahuma is going to bat at 3, Markram Rickelton will open. And Brevis, I'm hoping will get to play. So I'm very keen to see what shapes up Australia's, South Africa's bowling attack that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at even the comments coming through and freaking awesome, always lending some good stats to preview this ODI series. There's some written articles on our website as well if you guys fancy that. But look, enough said. Let's move on to the CPL because there's going to be lots of West Indian cricket chat right now. And let's introduce the guest for today, which is Machel St. Patrick from the Cricket Caribbean podcast. Good to see you. What time is it in the morning and which island are you joining us from, sir?
Well, luckily for you, I'm actually joining from London, so I'm all good. It's 4:00 in the afternoon, and everything is good for me.
The reason I asked you that is because I think you were kind of covering the West Indies Pakistan series. I think the ODI leg, which is in Miami, and then you came back to good old London. So work done. Now just the CPL from back home.
Yeah. So I think I've travelled way too much in the last year. I've been nearly everywhere watching this team. So I think the rest of this summer, I said, was time for recovery and recuperation.
Super. We want to get your thoughts about various things, including the CPL, which I think is growing from strength to strength because I was doing some research and seeing all the last 7 winners, Machel, and all different names, which we want to kind of see in a competition, especially with just a 16 tournament. And the boys, Akshay and Nikhil, have loads of questions as well for you. So I think we'll start with the CPL before we deep dive into Cricket West Indies and that incredible board meeting with the greatest names in the game to come out of the Caribbean to just put things right and guessing. So we'll save that in just a bit and we'll take a few questions from the comments. But first and foremost, hope all is well. How the CPL began and who's your particular team? Do you have an allegiance? Because I was watching a St. Lucia Kings preview and I think you fancy them, don't you?
So, I mean, you can probably tell from the flag behind me that Jamaica's actually my team, but obviously the Jamaica Talawars have pulled out of CPL for the last 2 years, which is a big talking point in and of itself. And actually for your audience, there is a big rumor so Jamaica are supposed to be back in next year's CPL. And the rumor is that they're going to be backed by is it Delhi? Is it Capitals? Who's the Capitals? Is it Delhi?
Delhi,
So allegedly, not confirmed yet, but the rumors that I've been told is that Delhi Capitals will buy out the Jamaica franchise, and they will be the franchise behind the franchise, so to speak. So Jamaica are supposed to be back next year. So for the last 2 years, when I've been watching CPL, really my focus has been on who are the next, I guess, West Indian talent that we should be looking out for in terms of the wider contribution for the West Indies cricket team, because the best team in the tournament on paper is usually Trinidad or Guyana. Obviously, you've got the Knight Riders, they've got all Sunil Narain, Nicholas Puran, Kyron Pollard, Andre Russell, Akil Hussain. So the Knight Riders have the stars on paper, right? And then you look at the Guyana Amazon Warriors, they also have both of those teams have a heavy island influence side. So Trinidad have all the best Trini players. Guyana have all the best Guyanese players. So Guyana have Romario Shepherd, Shimron Hetmeyer, Imran Tahir is basically Guyanese now, so he's there. He's there as well. And then when you throw in the extra West Indian players like Shea Hope, Gudakesh Moti's in there. So Trinidad and Guyana are always the strongest sides. But as you said before you came to me, the one thing that CPL has in its favour is its unpredictability. I think last year St. Lucia won, the year before that Guyana won, the year before that Jamaica won, the year before that St. Kitts won, the year before that Trinidad won. So I don't say it to just say it. I have no idea who's going to win this year. You have strong favourites, but I have no idea who will win it.
And that's what makes it a compelling competition, like you just said. And when I looked at the squads, I was looking at a couple of my favourite players from the West Indies right now, Casey Carty and Josh De Silva. They turned out to play, of course, with the TKR, who have the mighty giants of the West Indies themselves. I think I do fancy them. I was also going to ask you about Daren Sammy, and how is it not a conflict of interest of him doing the St. Lucia Kings gig and also kind of being the all-format coach for the West Indies? Surely there is something happening there. And I think it's a very short turnaround from the CPL final if St. Lucia make it, and then their next series against Nepal in Sharjah. So can you explain that for me and CPL fans?
Yeah, so when Daren Sammy got the head coach job in 2023 for the white ball sides, my understanding is that one of the caveats in his contract was that he would still be allowed to be a head coach in CPL. Phil Simmons was the coach before Daren Sammy. Phil Simmons was not allowed to be a head coach whilst being the West Indies head coach. But what concerns me is things have changed since then. Now Daren Sammy is all format head coach. So now he's the test coach as well. And I actually think this isn't really... I'm not more so upset about Sammy also being able to coach in CPL. It's more about workload, right? And I get like people need to make money and maybe he wants to stay in the cricket as much as possible. But you're right to... So CPL ends on the 22nd of September. Our first game against Nepal is on the 25th of September. Then straight after Nepal, we have to go to India for I think the gap between the last... T20 against Nepal and the start of the test series against India is like 4 or 5 days, or is something really short. It's like if it's a week, it's just a week maximum, right? So it's not like they're going to fly from Dubai back to the Caribbean and then to India. They'll go from Dubai straight to India for the test series. So my question mark for Daren Sammy is, why would you want to coach CPL when you know the international demands that are coming straight after CPL? And like it doesn't get any harder than India away. Like we just had Australia at home, like, and then India away next. So I have issues about that. And I actually think West Indies should be saying to Daren Sammy, you shouldn't be coaching in CPL as much for him as well as West Indies.
No, it's food for thought, and we'll come back to that topic of the West Indies in greater good. A last one from me from the CPL, and then I'll throw it forward to my boys who definitely have a few to pick your mind about. Just the fact that we've seen the 100 collide now with the CPL, Machel, and certain players are saying, you know what, we'll play for the 100. Certain players want to play for the CPL team. So, case in point, Moin Ali, I think, has chosen the CPL rather than the 100, which is strange, but it's a good addition. Similar, I think, Noor Ahmed is another example where it's gone vice versa. Do you think that's a little detriment to the CPL, taking the sheen away from the competition? Or how do you kind of view it as a fan, as a West Indies cricket expert, as a CPL viewer?
So this maybe will surprise you what I'm about to say here. I think this is what should happen. It's market forces, right? The only league, T20 league, that will not get another league... PSL clashed with IPL this year, but IPL will always get the best players, right? And I think everyone accepts that in world cricket. The IPL window gets the best players in the world. Fine. I think the rest of the leagues have to clash with each other. I think, because that's what... If we think of it in terms of let's use football. If we think of it in terms of football and how the football industry works and the season, leagues just clash with each other, and the players go where they believe either the most money is or the best competition is, right? So I actually have no issue with CPL clashing with the 100, because the only way for CPL to improve itself is to face competition. Now, they may look at the 100 this year and go, oh, this has affected the quality of the overseas players that are coming to CPL. If you go through most of the teams in CPL this year, actually, I'm not convinced the overseas quality is the best. Moeen's good, but then for every Moeen Ali, you've got let me think of someone. Like Colin Munro played on Sunday, and now he scored 120 something. But Colin Munro is also 38 years old, and to me, that speaks volumes about the quality of CPL, that Colin Munro, even at 38, is coming to CPL and smashing everybody to all parts for 128. Would he be able to go to the 100 and score 120? I'm not as convinced about that. But like I say, for me, this is market forces. And players have the right, or should have the right, to choose where they're willing to take their talent to. And I want to see more of this, where leagues just clash against each other. And do you know what will happen, guys? The leagues, this is where we'll get natural slimming down of T20 leagues, because the ones that can't compete will just go away. And I actually think some of these leagues do need to go away, if I'm honest with you. So that less is more. It means more quality for the consumer. So if it means, for example, that Bangladesh Premier League needs to disappear, then Bangladesh Premier League needs to disappear. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of have their allegiances to their league, and obviously you're joining us from London right now, talking about the CPL and the state of West Indies. So you have a certain sort of connection there. So you would never want to see the CPL diminish. It just makes you think how it is an interesting tournament with 5 overseas allowed, and there's going to be a new sort of regime, I think, with the breakthrough players to see more youngsters come through from the West Indies. And I'll be keen to pick your mind on a few, X factors and unknown talents that we probably might see in the course of this tournament. But Akshay and Nikhil have been waiting for quite a while on the wings. Now, Akshay, over to you. Your question to Machel. West Indies topics we can reserve. Anything CPL first would be welcome.
Yeah, I have a few questions actually. I mean, more to discuss. Firstly, of course, the Jamaican flag, and I was discussing last week itself with another friend of mine. We were talking about the Talibas, from the 2015-16 Sangakkara, Shakib, Russell, Gale days, and how we used to love watching them. But with how CPL is headed, and the way some of these talents have been distributed, like you said, TKR and JW, they've got majority of the local talents over there, concentrated. Do you think then there is a case to be made for a more equitable system? Firstly, because sure, by your own logic, first of all, market forces and more money, like more players will attract to more money. And if TKR is going to offer more money, invariably they will want to go there. But do you think that's all there is to this? Then if that is the case, why do you think are the other teams not offering more money? Why isn't a St. Lucia Kings, which is backed by an IPL franchise, or a Barbados Royals, which is also backed by an IPL franchise, not being able to attract some of these top talents in the region?
That's a really good question, because as you were saying your question, I was all set to say an answer, and then you added that bit at the end, and I was like, actually, so who are the IPL franchises? The Royals, the Knight Riders, the Kings. Yeah. I think it's those 3 at the moment, right?
Yeah.
If CPL wants to survive, they may need to increase. They're caught between a rock and a hard place, because the reality of what I want to say here is that there actually isn't enough Caribbean. I'm mindful of the audience watching this, because I know there's going to be some West Indians watching this who are ready to cuss if I say this. But I actually don't think that there is enough West Indian talent to feed the league. Now, hear me out. When I say talent, that doesn't mean there's not enough West Indian players to feed the league, but there's not a high quality of West Indian talent to spread around the teams. Now, the reason I make this point is because fundamentally, with all domestic leagues, IPL being no different, you still have to have a high quotient of domestic players. And we have a problem at the moment that we have a high quotient but low quality. That's why Kieran Pollard can still be one of the feature players in CPL at 38, right? Kieran Pollard, respectfully to Kieran Pollard, can't really get a gig in any top T20 league anywhere else now because of his advance in age, etc. Right? But CPL, he's still literally one of the biggest names in CPL because the quality isn't there at the lower level, which is why they created the Breakout League as a way to almost fast track the development of the quality of the standard underneath CPL. So CPL has a decision to make. Whilst they're waiting for this, the 2021, 22, the younger talent to marinate and develop, do they have to go the way of the ILT20, or I don't know what Major League Cricket does, where they allow more overseas players in? Because if you allow more overseas players in, technically you increase the quality of the league. Whereas at the moment, I mean, they've already slyly done it this year because they've changed the rules slightly this year, where they've said if you include one young player, you're allowed to play all your overseas players. Whereas it didn't used to be like that. You could only play four. Whereas now, if you include one youngster, you can play all your overseas players. And I think that's them trying to say we need to develop a youngster, but actually it's also trying to say we don't actually have the quality across all of the teams to not justify putting all the overseas talent in. So I do think they're kind of caught in a gap here. So, and sorry, just to finish answering your question, this is why, despite the big money that Knight Riders might have, Royals, etc., where are they supposed to spend that big money on if you can't get more overseas players? So what they actually have to do is they have to get better at scouting the quality that's coming underneath and be the first franchise to find the next big talent, if that makes sense.
Correct. But what about the existing names? So I do agree with you, of course. I mean, not agree. I do get where you're coming from. But when you look at some of the existing top talents, you've got the Purins, you've got the Narayans and everyone of the world. What makes TKR so attractive? Is it just money right now that's at play, or is there something else that's going on?
I think also you have to understand that with our franchises, there's the nationality aspect to it as well. Narayan's not leaving Trinidad. Puran's not leaving Trinidad. Pollard's not leaving. Obviously, they can force them out for a season, but Bravo's the head coach. And that's why I mentioned Trinidad and Guyana at the start of the tournament. Notice how both those teams are heavily concentrated in the best Trinidad talent and the best Guyanese talent. So if you're the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots, who don't have, with respect to St. Kitts, 5 or 6 St. Kittitians who can be the core of their team. St. Lucia don't have 6 St. Lucia. I mean, Johnson Charles is their hero. They don't have 6 St. Lucians who they could say that's the core of our team. So only Trinidad, Guyana, and probably Barbados could say, here's our 6 home-based guys that we can build. You know how like Dhoni is Chennai, right? Like we have that in ours, in that Puran is Trinidad, Bravo is Trinidad, Narayan is Trinidad, and you can't take them away from like they're going to. So if you're Knight Riders, you are always going to retain your Trinidad core. If you're not going to just give them away to the other franchises, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I do have a few more questions. I don't know, Nikhil bhai, shall I ask first if it's all right? Yeah, do you want to ask something?
Business.
Okay. So about this, firstly, just sticking to this very point, do you think then there's any merit in probably changing the whole structure of recruitment? Sure, I get your point. Narayan and Babid, Narayan, Pollard, Puran, just by virtue of them wanting to play for Trinidad, they will always be attracted to playing for TKR. Then do you think just changing the mode of recruitment, probably something like an IPL auction, do you think there's any merit in exploring, an option where every team has an equal chance or an equal shot at recruiting these players?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If you wanted a wider distribution of talent, I mean, it probably helped when Jamaica got left, because it meant all the Jamaican talent technically had to, or the core Jamaican talent had to go to different places. I think they have to decide on. So at the moment, I think you can retain, is it 5 or 6 players? I think that's what it might even be more than that. I think you're allowed to retain up to 7. So I think they could do with, what CPL could probably do with is something like a a super auction where everyone's just up for grabs again, and you're not even allowed to retain anyone. I think that's the only way you can reset it. Now, still, that doesn't stop you doing backroom deals where effectively you say to Nicholas Pooran, listen, you're going up for auction, but you're coming back to Trinidad anyways because we've already sorted that out. But I think the only way to reset the distribution in CPL is to do that, because as much as I say anyone can win it, everyone recognizes that St. Kitts are one of the weakest teams. I know they won it in 2021, but they're recognized as probably the weakest team in the tournament. And there's not much you can do about that if there's nothing like an auction to reset the distribution.
All right. And one last before I let Nikhil bhai take over. You spoke about St. Kitts, you spoke about Kittitians. Mackay Louis, like for instance, he's, if I'm not wrong, the first and probably the only Kittitian right now, who has played for West Indies as well. A guy I genuinely loved watching. In fact, that was a name I was talking about a couple of days ago to other folks. You say that, certain islands have probably seen a clear downward curve in terms of, cricket being followed and cricket being played. Then is there any merit in the West Indian Cricket Board, assuming that WICB right now is, or Cricket West Indies is truly, passionate about developing the sport in the region? Because that might not necessarily be the case in different countries or in different areas. So let's first come up with the assumption that they truly want to build the sport. Is there any merit in then them telling all these franchise owners, come up with your own, academies and everything? Because we've seen from the Kolkata Knight Riders, for instance, in India, they've come up with their own academy. The Chennai Super Kings have come up with their own academy. Delhi Capitals have come up with their own academy. These academies in turn act like a way of developing talent at the grassroots level. And then you can probably have, after that, how they go about it, that's a different question altogether. But investing in grassroots cricket right now, do you think then asking these teams to actually do that for them, because they are the ones with the big pockets, and then probably use that to incentivize them in some sense, do you think there's any merit there?
Yeah, I think there is. I think there is merit in that, and I think we've started to see the signs of that already. So the Royals, Barbados Royals, Rajasthan, have already started camps in Barbados, more so particularly around women's cricket, actually. But they've definitely, and that's why when you look, if you go and look at the Barbados Royals team this year, they're the team that has heavily invested in young players this year. Now, and I think that's deliberate. I think they're looking at 2, 3, 4 years down the line, where I think they're the first franchise that has recognized a lot of these guys are old in the Caribbean and they're going to have to move on. Let's get ahead of everyone else and identify who the next set of talent might be. I think that's deliberate. I could be wrong. So the Royals have definitely done it. And actually, I want to say it's Mumbai, which is interesting because TKR are the ones with Trinidad. But if I'm not mistaken, Mumbai Indians have done a deal with the Trinidad government to build a some kind of training camp in Trinidad. That was announced either early this year or late last year, and I understand it, that's now set. It's not ready, but that's what they're planning to do now. I don't know if that's just to kind of develop and mine Trinidad talent, or if that's as a base for the rest of the Caribbean, if that makes sense. So your point is valid in that I think some of the IPL owners, franchises are starting to realize you're going to need to. The West Indian talent used to be the kind of, that's where the best talent's going to be in the world, right? And I think there's still a recognition that there's some raw talent there, but without bedding yourself in the region and almost harvesting it, it's not now going to naturally harvest. Does that make sense? So I think they may be going about it that way.
Yeah, and by the way, it's hard to look past the Pollard connection. If Mumbai Indians have actually, done something with the Trinidad government, pretty sure Pollard would have played, a big role in ensuring that happens. Yes, Nikhil bhai.
So I thought we had already left the conversation. It was just the two of you, because there's hardly much left. But firstly, great talking to you. I have a couple of questions. They are on the same horizon that Akshay asked. One is, how much do you believe that these leagues are supposed to actually help your international T20I team work? Like, say, for example, in the IPL, it's been taken rightly so that you have the IPL for 15 years, yet you haven't won a World Cup. And I'm not going to say that IPL only ensured that India won the World Cup, because the people that they won the World Cup with weren't necessarily the kind of people that people wanted them to play, but they found a way and it worked for them. How do you see CPL as a factor which could influence? Because let's be very, let's say it this way, that all of us really enjoy watching West Indies play T23. Now, whether that is by our nostalgia that we've seen Chris Gale fall over because he wanted to show Australia that, you should not be talking to us like that, Manon Samuels, and all of those good memories. But how do you see CPL as a factor to help West Indies get more money in, more people in from the form of T20 cricket? Because I feel that's the one place where West Indies can leapfrog other sides because they have the talent. Is it a fair assumption to make, or do you feel there isn't much there and it's a long road ahead?
I think that the creation of the Breakout League this year, which was it was at least a year, if not more, in discussion before the Breakout League this year. Now, the reason why the Breakout, I'm privy to a bit of information around it. The reason why the Breakout League even became something to talk about before it was implemented this year is because there was an acknowledgement from Cricket West Indies that CPL wasn't doing much to bring the next West Indian talent through, right? I think CPL took some time, this is my personal view, CPL took some time to accept that they weren't doing much to bring West Indian talent through. And then, of course, you're stuck in this kind of weird catch-22 position where CPL is a private is a private enterprise, right? They bought the right to be the primary or sole T20 competition in the Caribbean years ago. 25-year contract that can be renewed for 20-year contract that can be renewed up to 50 years, whatever it might be. So weirdly, CPL doesn't owe West Indies cricket anything. So as much as I can criticize them, I also have to accept that they're independent to the Caribbean. They actually don't owe Cricket West Indies anything. Once they signed that contract and Cricket West Indies sold away the rights for a T20 tournament to be held by a private company, we can't technically then dictate to that private company and say, you have a right to develop our talent and your rules should change so that more West Indian talent is coming through. But in the last 2 years, I think CPL have now realized, oh, hold on. If we don't do something to develop this next young talent, we are going to reach a critical point in 2 years' time when Pollard is 40, he'll retire. Russell will be 39, he will retire. And Ryan will be 38, he will retire. Let's just take those three names. Gale's already gone. Once Pollard, Russell, and Narayan go, who do you build CPL around? Who's your domestic talent where you... Obviously, there's Puran, but that's one name. Who's the big name domestically that you say to the rest of the world, come and watch CPL? Right? So I think CPL recognize later than they should that if we don't find the next young talent soon, we're going to reach a critical point where CPL naturally declines on the pyramid of watchable T20 leagues. So belatedly now, I think both have come together and said, Cricket West Indies has said CPL, you need to help us. And CPL have realized that it's a mutually beneficial arrangement because they need the West Indian talent. So the Breakout League has been formed. CPL ran the Breakout League, which tells you everything. So the Breakout League was formed. The rules behind it were essentially that all the players picked were not allowed. If you'd played more than 10 internationals, you weren't allowed to play. So that, again, that tells you what their focus is. If you were under the age of 20, if you were over the age of, each squad was only allowed to pick 3 players over the age of 27. Yeah, so it was very much a case of a recognition that we have to find the next young talent. Year one of it wasn't that good, but understandably so, because they've only just started it. So I think we need, the key thing is they now need to stick to it. And I think they also need to play the long game with it and say, right, give it 2-3 years and they should be able to find someone or find some players. And I can give you some names of people that you might want to watch out for, but I don't want to jump the gun. As things are right now.
Fair.
Hey, good questions, guys. I mean, in the CPL, and I think I heard it on the Sky Sports Cricket podcast about how they missed a trick with 100. The fact that they should have probably gone Joe Root and Harry Brook to play for the Northern Superchargers because they're from that part of the woods.
Yeah.
And I think that's how the IPL started. And that's a masterstroke. I think how they so it was called back in the day, and I think that's something that T20 leagues are missing, because when we talk about the IPL being so tribal, the reason why Akshay and me support RCB or Nick supports CSK, one is, okay, fine, geographically, if you're based out of those cities where it have bums and seats and more, but two is also if you resonate strongly with a certain player and then there's certain loyalty. Here, when you're looking at the other leagues, you don't know which player is going to be playing for which team when, and you always have to think about it. To the Cricket West Indies chat that we want to have with you, because it's been a remarkable time for West Indies after the 27 all out. I'm sorry, I didn't want to bring it up, but it has left the world flabbergasted. And since then, the board meeting took place with, I think it was Lara, Lloyd, Chandrapal, Desmond Haynes, and some other great names, Viv Richards as well, Sir Viv, I should say. How do you think it's all going to unfold in the future? Because since that meeting, they've still lost 8 out of 10 white ball games. And the tournaments you actually see coming thick and fast next year, are West Indies in a good position to be partaking in the WTC or the T20 World Cup or the 2027 ODI World Cup where they missed out in the last?
So, okay, where should I start? Let's start with the tournaments. I think we'll make the next World Cup. So the cutoff point for the next World Cup is March 2027. I think we'll just sneak in for the next World Cup. Obviously, then we'll do rubbish in the World Cup, but we might just sneak into it this time. T20 World Cup in Sri Lanka and India next year. I don't expect us to do that well in it, but again, we've obviously already qualified for it. But here's a problem, actually. So we've had that big board meeting, and I think the problem we have there's so many problems, but then one of the biggest problems we have in West Indies cricket is that we struggle in the Caribbean to stick to one course of action. But that's not necessarily the current administration's fault, or even in some cases previous administrations. The reason why they struggle to stick to a course of action is because they allow the on-pitch defeats to distract them from, like, if you look at something and you're like, right, we need to fix X, Y, Z, and this is going to take us 10 to 15 years to really fix it, right? You then have to commit to that 10 to 15 years or 5 to 10 years, etc. And you have to be strong enough to not get distracted by the on-field poor performances this is what happens in Pakistan cricket. This is why I always think Pakistan cricket's in perpetual chaos, because every time they have another embarrassment on the field, they pivot to another direction. They say, right, now we need to do that, or now we need to do this, and now we need to do that. But actually, if you want to change something, you have to just stick to the course, and you have to say, this is going to be rough. There's going to be a lot of defeats on the field, and it's not going to be easy to take, and people are going to want answers. But you almost have to sacrifice short term for long term, right? But in the Caribbean, we struggle with that. So 27 all out, you had so many people in the region, the media, the fans, heads of government demanding answers. And really what needed to happen was for the President Kishore to come out and just say, listen, we're all hurting. Like it's an embarrassment and so on and so forth. But this is what we've been doing over the last 2 to 3 years. This is the strategic plan. There's going to be some more bumps on the road as we try and navigate this, but we've just got to stick to the strategic plan. But instead they did we're going to call an emergency meeting and we're going to bring in all the greats and we're going to try and come up with a plan. And it's just like, when that happened, I was like, no, this is knee-jerk. This is knee-jerk. And that doesn't mean that Lloyd can't add something. That doesn't mean Lara can't add something. It doesn't mean Desmond Haynes can't add something. But they should be feeding into a plan that's already in place. It shouldn't be here's the plan. Because then what were we doing for the last 2 and 3 years then? So it makes me feel uncomfortable when we see things like that. But what the caveat I should add is, after they had that meeting, they had a big press conference, and they didn't really say at the press conference what's now going to happen. So I'm just holding off a bit until they do the official kind of release of documents or whatever, or a newer strategic plan to say, and this is now what we're going to be doing. This is how we're going to be moving forward. This is what we have agreed. So I don't want to criticize too heavy until I see what they've actually agreed is going to happen. Or maybe they haven't agreed anything and actually this was all just for show to just kind of get people off their back for a bit. But we shall see. Interestingly enough, though, I should just add that Laris came out, was it 2 days ago? I think he came out 2 days ago and said, and we had Carlos Brathwaite on our podcast a couple of days ago as well. And funnily enough, he said this. So Lara and Carlos Brathwaite said, we have to involve our most recent generation in this because West Indies are forever going back to the Clive Lloyds and the great generation. That's not to say they can't add anything, but Lara and Brathwaite were saying, why do we not go to DJ Bravo? Why do we not go to Pollard? Why do we not go to Chris Gale? That's the generation that bridges the gap between the greats and the current generation. The Bravos, the Pollards, the Gales all played in the explosion of T20. They understand what's happened to cricket in the last 10 to 15 years. So Lara was like, we need to tap into them. They have an understanding of the current cricket ecosystem and how that fits in with the next generation. So that was quite interesting to me that Lara has subsequently come out and said, why are we not talking to them? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's food for thought because when I look at it, and we were reading some excerpts from that particular board meeting or a chair meeting, if you'd like to put it that way, and Chris Daring, who's chief executive, he said hundreds of things which are wrong with West Indies cricket right now, which have to improve. But they've named the top 5, okay? And I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. Practice pitches across the region, the quality of our domestic tournaments. There's definitely a skills deficiency at various levels that don't get highlighted till they reach internationals. And then you see the glaring deficiencies between the international counterparts. Put into more changes, maybe a high performance center, something that Akshay spoke about, where they can probably kind of leverage it through the CPL, where there's Indian money being pumped into grassroots cricket to the West Indies. Be an ICC money package being offered to the West Indies. I think Clive Lloyd was very adamant about that as well. So again, coming back to how it's going to go forward for them. The big question, I think it also is about a normal West Indian cricketer right now. And I don't know what you observed when you were in the Caribbean last. Do play for the West Indies anymore? Or do you think it's all about just being noticed by the T20 leagues, playing for the IPL, and they're happy with that? What do you think the mindset of a young West Indian boy or girl right now is to play for the West Indies? I'm sure, right?
I'm not sure. I think everybody. Okay, so I'm willing to say that every cricketer in the region, when they first start out, starts with, I believe this strongly, that they still start with the idea of, I want to play for the West Indies. I do think they start with that. However, I think once you play for the West Indies, so I think one of two things happens. Either once you play for the West Indies, then get a taste of T20 franchise money, you start to think, I want to play for the West Indies, but playing for West Indies is a gateway to T20 franchise cricket. So it's almost like a transactional relationship. Yes, I will play for the West Indies, but that's because it puts me in the shop window for T20 franchise leagues. I think some players fall into that category. Then there's another set of players who, before they even play for the West Indies, have already got into T20 franchisees, whether it be domestic first or whatever. So therefore, I think they then get sidetracked and actually they're not all like if that's how they've got into their cricket, they then don't actually need West Indies until their form suffers, if you catch my drift. Because if you're good enough, you can technically just play T20s around the world and only play for West Indies when you want to or have to for them. Look, Shimron Hetmyer is a good example of that. Until he came back most recently, he didn't need to play for West Indies to just get he doesn't really need to play for West Indies now, but he didn't need to play for West Indies to keep getting gigs around the world. That's why Nicholas Pooran has retired. He doesn't need West Indies. Nicholas Pooran will get T20 gigs now for the rest of his life. And I think he's just made a decision that I don't need West Indies to make money or to get fame and fortune. So I think there's some players like that. And in fairness, there is a third set of players, of which Jayden Seales falls into this category, who they wanted to play for West Indies where they were young. They made it to the West Indies team, and West Indies is their priority. And I think there are players like Jayden Seales who could easily. I mean, I think Jayden Seales isn't spoken about enough. He's literally probably the best young bowler in the world, right? But he isn't. Maybe because he plays for West Indies, that's why. But I don't think he's spoken about enough, right? Jayden Seales could literally right now already just leave West Indies behind and try and get T20 franchise money. But it's clear that West Indies is his priority. And so when I sometimes see some of these other young players not make West Indies their priority, I look at someone like Seales and even Alzari Joseph, who, to be fair to Alzari, even when his form's been up and down, he's always put West Indies first, right? So I look at people like Alzari Joseph and Jayden Seales and say, well, that means the ones who don't, they're making a choice not to. Because it is possible. And that's why I was so upset with Puran. Because as Puran's a great guy. Spoken to him personally, he's a very good human being. But what upset me about Puran's decision is he made it look as if West Indies was getting in the way of T20. And this isn't about bashing Nicholas Puran, but just to give an example, the contract that Puran has in the IPL is so big that he only needs to play another few T20 leagues, really and truly. West Indies isn't really getting in the way of anything, right? So when he stepped aside, I was like, you don't really need to do that, though, because you are actually, you're making so much, you don't actually need to play everything. So there are some question marks about the desires or lack thereof of some players to play for West Indies.
Yeah, interesting when you say that. My final question, and then maybe our West Indies related questions. I know there are a few from the comments. Maybe 5-10 move on. You're a Test cricket fan. I presume you grew up probably watching the best through the 90s, early 2000s, and I'm pretty sure you still watch the WTC with great fervor, even though the pitches, some are saying, were too lively and so forth. But the grander question, what's with the two-tier Test system? Because if that actually happens, sadly, the West Indies miss out, because the three previous WTCs, they finished 8th out of 9, so there's no real benefit. Have a say to probably fall in the better tier of the two tiers. Would that sit well with you and fans around the Caribbean in terms of West Indies Test cricket, and if that's snatched away from them?
So I've got no problem with it. I think we belong in a second tier. I think we have no business being in the first tier of cricket. In every other sport in the world, we accept and understand that teams fall from grace. And when you fall from grace, so again, let's just use football. Once upon a time, Hungary was one of the best football teams in the world, right? In the 1950s. If we don't want to use Hungary, Uruguay won one of the first few World Cups. They were good in the 30s, right? Brazil were good in the 70s. Then they went for a bit of a fallow period. Then they were good again. Now they're going for a bit. Teams naturally have peaks and troughs, right? As things stand right now, West Indies are in a 30-year rut, and as a result, we should be punished. Is a strong word, because I don't literally mean punish, but if you are bad for 30 years, you should be playing teams that are similarly bad to you. Cricket just works in a different way to other sports, where we're hamstrung by this kind of colonial history and gentleman's agreement of how the game must be played. But I'm no fool. India versus England is up there in terms of quality. West Indies versus Sri Lanka is down here. Nobody wants. No. Why are we equating these things? It doesn't make sense. So because of our hangover with the kind of colonial aspect of cricket, we still believe that West Indies should be allowed or should be playing these high-profile series. And I'll put it like this. The only reason West Indies still play India and Australia and England in high-profile series is because we're called the West Indies. If you actually looked at it from a talent perspective, everybody would look at our team and go, well, they're basically as strong as Bangladesh. Why are we playing them? Do you see where I'm coming from? But our name still means something. And that's why we're still getting... India wouldn't normally play a 2-test series at home against Zimbabwe because they would expect to absolutely massacre them, right? West Indies, whether people like it or not, we are on a par with Zimbabwe when it comes to test cricket. Whether people want to hear that or not, that's what it is, right? So we are going to India in October because we are the West Indies, not because we actually can give India a competitive series in India, if that makes sense. So if it was up to me, I'd put West Indies in a second tier. The only caveat I have about second tier cricket, and this is why it won't happen, or why I think there's a barrier in place to it. England are the only team in the big three that would actually get relegated. India would never get relegated. Australia would never get relegated, but England would. And I think the ECB are the ones most afraid of splitting two-tier cricket because they know that if there's two-tier cricket, someone has to be relegated. And England would likely be the big team that would end up getting relegated, and then they can't play the Ashes, and then they can't play against India. And so if England could actually just be good, we wouldn't be having this discussion about two-tier cricket. So this is all England's fault because otherwise this would be happening already.
Always in for that. Just to put it at that.
We always want to, like Nick said, Akshay, Nick's come in here. I mean, we kind of sympathize with Cricket West Indies and West Indies cricket here. Yeah, I mean, because essentially we've grown up watching so in the 90s and early 2000s. And then throughout the IPL, like Akshay said, he's had a lot of like favorites. But right now, bro, like even 2023 ODI World Cup, they didn't qualify for it. What's your sort of take on West Indies cricket? And do you have any pertinent questions that you want to ask Machel?
Just one, this is more of a, like, I've always been curious with how, West Indies function because they're not a country. We make the mistake of calling them a country, but they are independent countries. So the culturally, I mean, there will be cultural differences. There'll be different ways of looking at things. I've always wondered how they function as a team because when what was Fire in Babylon, when I went through the documentary as well, back in the day, the story was different because like you mentioned, there was a bit of that colonial hangover. There was that to prove themselves, to prove to the world that we are a force to reckon with. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Capitalism has completely taken over. It's more about the money, more about the business. When you look at it now, and when you look at how the West Indian team is right now, do you think some of the performances and some of all of this is also down to the fact that inherently they are different countries, there are different groups of people that are playing together? Do you think that also somewhere plays a role, especially in this era of cricket?
Do you know what? I actually don't think it does. You have, but there are some people around the region. There's some countries more than other countries who will be louder in their argument to say that countries should be allowed to go on their own, and they believe that if these countries went on their own, they would perform better than the West Indies. I think that's nonsense. These countries don't have the financial capacity. Now, some people say if they went on their own, they'd pump more money into the cricket because now they're on their own. But I just think they would quickly understand. So let's take Trinidad and Guyana and Barbados, right? They would quickly understand that even at their best, they're no better than Netherlands and Scotland, right? Because cricket has left the region behind in terms of the professionalization of the cricket. Just like we still have no high performance centers, there'd still be no high performance centers just because people are on their own, right? Whenever I see the players speak to players, whatever, I never pick up from the modern day players that there is any kind of animosity about the fact of there's 3 Trinis in the team and there's 2 Guyanese and 4 Jamaicans. And I personally don't pick up on anything like that. I don't think it's a hindrance to anything. But what I think is a bigger hindrance than the nationality thing is actually that the modern day player makes more money outside of West Indies cricket than for West Indies cricket. So it's not really about I'm Jamaican and the guy in the change room next to me is from Trinidad and that guy is from St. Kitts and therefore we can't get on. I think it's more to do with I have loads and loads of money. I don't really need to be here. the West Indies is fortunate to have my time more than anything to do with where everybody is from.
Sounds good. I mean, Nikhil, anything else that you want to ask to this? Because I can keep going on and on. Like
I think we can keep going on West Indies for a few hours. So sorry for taking so much of your time, but
Yeah.
two questions. I think one is more a request that I think I genuinely feel Daren Sammy can do the job that maybe I see or I saw Brendan McCullum do for New Zealand. If you remember the 2015 World Cup where he wrote a letter, and again I know I can be called an emotional fool. I have no problem, but I feel there is the one word that I always associate with West Indies is a lot of passion, and we've seen that on the international stage too often. I gen I would be very happy. I was delighted that Daren Sammy was reacting the way he did on those umpiring calls because I want to see that. I know people will not want it because the coach shouldn't be reacting like that. But I feel there is genuine passion in Daren Sammy to tell the world that just don't paint the sorry picture of West Indies. They are not what you see of them, and there is a lot more to them. I genuinely feel if Daren Sammy isn't the coach, but if he becomes the director of cricket, and again, please feel free to discard the title. But I genuinely feel if Daren Sammy is at the helm of affairs, and he can, along with, as you said, rightly said, about with Naren, with Bravo, with Pollard, understand that what the modern cricketer wants, he could be the guy who could just unite the smaller, I would say, clubs together and be like, let's just get together and show the world that there is a reason why Fire in Babylon was what it was. It took a setback. It took a setback in Australia for them to come together and have that fire. I feel that Daren Sam is someone who can really do the job for West Indies. So not be the guy who's the coach, but be the guy who takes West Indies forward. Because but that's my opinion. What do you feel about that?
So what you've just articulated there in a nutshell is one of the biggest what should I say here? One of the it's one of the biggest things that we find odd about West Indies cricket. Let me explain. You just gave us like a great explanation as to why you think Daren Sammy could be a unifying force, right? Now, if I played what you just said to a Caribbean audience, they would say, not everyone, but certainly I could find you a significant majority who would say absolute nonsense, right? Now, again, let me explain. Because generally speaking, with West Indian players who have achieved stuff in the game, their stock is higher outside of the Caribbean than inside the Caribbean, right? That doesn't mean that what you said is wrong. Far from it. But what it means is you have a greater appreciation for Daren Sammy as a human being, as a cricketer, and his potential galvanizing role as a potential coach, administrator, etc. You've seen him and you've said, hold on, this guy could do stuff for West Indies, right? Now, in the Caribbean, they would look at it and go, Daren Sammy was a mediocre cricketer. He won 2 World Cups as captain, but this isn't my views. I'm telling you what people would say. Yes, he won 2 World Cups as captain, but he wasn't a key contributor on the pitch, so that doesn't matter. Daren Sammy doesn't have enough coaching credentials. He's not a great of West Indies cricket, so nobody would be willing to listen to what you just said, right? I agree with elements of what you said, that I think Sammy is a good conduit between a youngster who came up in the game and learned from the legends, who's young enough to understand T20 cricket and what's happened to the world game to speak to the youngsters, and therefore he plays a critical bridging role between 2 generations of West Indies cricket. But I think West Indies cricket is almost stuck in a twilight zone at the moment between a lot of people who only know West Indies as we were once the best team in the world for 15 years, and therefore we should just always return to what made us great for that 15-year period, even if it's outdated, versus a next set of people who are saying, we've been rubbish for the last 30 years. Maybe we need to do something different. So Daren Sammy's kind of caught in that mid gap, right? And in the Caribbean, it's a very unforgiving cricket landscape and culture. So you know how we just lost 5-0 to Australia in the white ball series, 3-0 to Australia in the test series. If you spoke to the average person in West Indies cricket, they'd say we need to sack Daren Sammy now, right? And that's, do you see what I mean? That's how our landscape works. Nobody's thinking about, but maybe we need to build to something. It's just like, what? We just lost to Australia? Not good enough. Sack him and sack everybody else as well. So that's unfortunately the culture we're in.
So I think just
Yes,
to add to the conversation, I think the problem here is we're all, I think it's not just West Indies. I feel cricket as a system in general is often too associated with the names
Yeah.
as opposed to the games of the people. And again, the reason why I pick out Daren Sammy is because anybody who's seen those 2 title-winning runs, there are so many small things that Daren Sammy did, and sometimes you don't have to be a 6-time World Cup winning champion or somebody else or have 15,000 runs to get the game, to get to the people. So my only point of, and I completely relate to you because it doesn't matter. You can replace the name with Gautam Gambhir, and many people wanted him sacked. Okay, how do you lose to New Zealand at home? Sack this guy. How do you lose this? Sack this guy. So I think that is prevalent everywhere. It's just that I feel that sometimes cricket needs to move on of just wanting to go back to names because they are names. They are big names and they will definitely add value. But maybe there could be other people who may not be as bad, and you should give them equal opportunity, if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah, important points there from both of you all. Let me just come in here because, in the interest of time, let me speed on with the show and take a few questions from the chat to Machel and let him go. There was one from freaking awesome, Machel, saying, please tell me about West Indies preparation for the T20 World Cup. Do you think the existing squad is good enough, or are you expecting any changes? I really thought Andy Russell probably would have retired playing this World Cup, but he's called it a day already. What's the big chink in the armor you see going into that World Cup? Because I'm guessing it's maybe 1 or 2 positives only.
So we lost 5-0 to Australia, lost 2-1 to Pakistan, lost 3-0 to Bangladesh, all at home. So things aren't looking good, right? I think the biggest weakness is we've lost Nicholas Pooran, right? Nicholas Pooran walks into every single international side in the world, and he's our best. With Pooran gone, it means that we don't have a natural player in the top 3 or 4 who can smash a spinner out of the attack. So that he's the best player spin in the region in terms of actual destroying spin. So he's gone. We can't replace him. We literally have no one in the region that can replace Nicholas Pooran. So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2, we don't have a leg spinner. That's also a problem. And then issue number 3, we don't have enough attacking seamers to support Alzari Joseph. And like similarly, this goes all full circle back to the conversation we had about CPL. This is why this CPL is important this year. We need to find some players, but they're not readily available. What I would say is I would expect off the back of this CPL that Jayden Seales will play his way into the T20 World Cup team. He doesn't play much T20 cricket, but I don't think they've got a choice. I think they'll have to put him into the team. So I can see Jayden Seales coming in. I can see them gambling on whoever looks like the best leg spinner in this year's CPL. And as for replacing Nicholas Pooran, well, there's just no one. Like, I got no answers for that one.
There's no one. It's tough for them. Another one from cricket.tashan saying, Mash, Navin Badesi or Jay Gooley, if any one of them performs in the CPL, who fills the West Indies issues better?
Badesi. So Badesi is a leg spinner. There's about 4, possibly 5. There's 5 leg spinners in this year's CPL who, if they can have a good tournament, even though I have my doubts about every single one of them, I can see how out of desperation West Indies takes a gamble on one of them. So Badesi has a better chance than Gooley because Gooley's just your standard kind of orthodox bowler all-rounder, whereas Badesi bowls leg spin and we don't have one. So Badesi would be my answer there.
Okay. And a final one from Santosh Verupa, because I think he's talking about 2 leagues in terms of the 60 and the Global T20 League. He had this one for you. Is 60 making a comeback also? Do you see Global Cricket League staying for long?
Right. So the 60 was, I think, so this goes back to our conversation that we had about CPL and recognized what do they do for Cricket West Indies and so on, or West Indies cricket. The 60 was implemented, was it 3 years ago, as like a T10 tournament before the start of CPL? I think, and that had similar rules to what the Breakout League had. So I think that was initially supposed to be CPL's way of trying to unearth the next talent. But it was a T10 league. And T10, some might say T10 helps you identify talent for T20, but it's not the same game, right? So it only lasted one season. We haven't seen it again. So I don't see now we've got the Breakout League. I don't see the 60 coming back. Now the GSL, the Global Cricket League, Global Super League, or whatever they call it in Guyana, is being sold to us as like a Champions League of cricket. However, if I'm not mistaken, didn't the ICC coming out of their last general meeting, wasn't there conversations that came out about they're thinking of bringing back the Champions League, right? Now, if they bring back the Champions League if the ICC brings back a global Champions League, which I want to see, I would watch that. I'm assuming that means the IPL sides would get involved, right? And if the IPL sides get involved in that for me immediately kills the Guyanese Super League. Because come on, if the IPL sides are in a Champions League and there's a global Super League trying to tell us they're a Champions League, no one's watching that. They want to watch the thing that's actually got the IPL champions in it. So I think the global Super League, even if it went in a different part of the calendar, everyone's looking at that as like a knockoff version of the true thing. So I think if the ICC sanctions a Champions League and the IPL teams get involved, I think the global Super League is over.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really much, even though Imran Tahir was doing, one can only fathom. On there, I think there were a few on the Cricket West Indies and the USA and how that's kind of going to come to fruition. But Ashutosh asking you, thoughts on Kareem Agor? Is he eligible for West Indies selection? I think left arm spinner. So do you think he can get a call up for the West Indies?
I would be shocked if he does. But then again, okay, so he's had 2 knocks so far in the tournament. One was a game-winning knock against, was it St. Kitts? Or was it against Barbados, maybe, I think it was. And then he also had a 50 against St. Kitts. Listen, if any player goes through, and if you have any domestic tournament, right? So let's say, let me put this back on you three. Let me give you a scenario. It's a long way of answering the Kareem Agor question, but I'm intrigued by what you three say about this. That 14, 15-year-old, 16-year-old boy who's causing it, I don't know if he is actually 14, but the boy who's causing all the headwaves in Indian cricket right now, if in the next IPL he was the leading run scorer in IPL, do you think he gets into the Indian team?
I personally don't think so. I don't know what the boys think, but because there's so much of talent in India, everyone's just pipping each other. I mean, because he has age on his side, I think they'll just wait for him, but he's tearing it up right now in the under-19s and stuff like that. So he'll still get the gig, but he might have a different say. Vaibhav Suryavanshi.
No, exactly. Like you said, too early right now. And yeah, the talent pool in India, it's just too deep. And for someone like a Vaibhav to come in, unless, BCCI and the powers that be, they really want to go for that record, the youngest player in the history of international cricket or something like that, just for vanity's sake, probably you might see him. But in terms of the pecking order, and that way I'm credit where it's you, BCCI and the selectors, they've been fairly organized. For most parts, at least, when it comes to selections, there is some sort of a pecking order that you can see, but no one can deny the talent that Vaibhav Suryavanshi is. We would still want to give him a couple more years, and then you might, potentially even see him, in the 2028 T20 World Cup, if not earlier.
Nikhil, orange cap, if you focus it in 2026 IPL, when do you give him his cap, Indian cap, Vaibhav Suryavanshi?
I think he would max be on the A tours in terms of send him on the A tours, send him to different places and see what he does there. Again, the point here is to not wait for him to fail, but the point is to see if he gets better. And I think that is a very pertinent point that people must remember, that not always are you willing to give people more chance to see them fail, but to see if they can adapt to the demands of the game across conditions. So I think that is what I would do about it.
Okay, so that's interesting, right? So maybe it's because of our lack of talent. I was hoping you were all going to say, yeah, he gets into our team. But if Kareem Agor ends CPL as the top run scorer, I think he has to go into the West Indies team. But maybe that speaks to our lack of depth. And then,
Exactly.
so I personally don't think he should be in the West Indies team. I'm not convinced he's a international standard player, but I think the West Indian lack of depth means if he top run scores, he ends up in the West Indies team. To answer the part about is he eligible? Yes, he is. I know he's played for the United States, but that's the same as Hayden Walsh Jr. played for the United States and then came and played for the West Indies. So yes, he could play for the West Indies.
Just to add to, I think the one caveat to that could also be what you're looking for. Now, I'll give you an example. If this was a guy who was a seam bowling all rounder, he would get into the team. So the point here is, it is what the ecosystem lacks. Indian ecosystem lacks a seam bowling all rounder. So if it is 16, 17, 18, like an example here is NKR. Now NKR is a different in terms of age, but he's still young. But he could be someone who could be fast right because India do not have an option like that. So maybe that is also a kind of logic which is in unfair, because let's take the example of Sony Baker for England. Now he's someone who everyone is getting excited for by watching him in the 100. We haven't seen much of it in the red ball cricket, but everybody who I see tweeting about it, everybody's ready to see him get Usman Khwaja or Steve Smith out in the Ashes because he's doing well in the 100. So I think there are cases where people may be fast track. Maybe if they add that extra value that they feel it's not there in the current ecosystem, and then maybe they're fast track.
Yeah, important point. I mean, even Darshan saying that in the comments, saying Hardik came into the Indian cricket team, similar route, because that's such a rare breed in Indian cricket right now, like Nick spoke about. Machel, thank you so much for your time. The comments, because they're so knowledgeable and interactive, they'll always keep firing you few ones, which will be never ending, to be fair. But I think hopefully we can reconvene when India hosts West Indies. I think the first week of October, we'll probably do something with you on that front for sure. And I'm hoping there is something for West Indies to savor on that tour, because normally Indian tours are very bleak for them. And hope you enjoyed us on MNL, Machel.
Yeah, most definitely. Listen. If we can get one guy getting 150 in the India tour, I'll accept it. But listen, just for your audience, if there's anybody who's come over from Caribbean Cricket Podcast, please make sure you follow the guys, please, people at cricket.com. You'll see all of their descriptors and links in the descriptor below. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, etc. So do all that. If you're here from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, please do that and support them, etc. You know what to do, people. But guys, thank you so much for having me on. Much appreciated. And like you say, when our guys finally turn up in India, let's reconvene. For what could be a very chastening experience, but let's reconvene all the same.
I wonder how many more Keswick Williams will come out of those Indian tours for all the Caribbean cricket fans. But we'll leave it there. Machel, thank you so much for your time, and go follow them on Twitter or Instagram. They're on their journey. Some love there. See each other, Machel. Much appreciated, mate. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Well done. Superb, man. Just to get some light thrown about West Indies cricket, because we all kind of love it and now kind of particularly loathe it with how things have unfolded. It's been a rather long MNL, but we apologize. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Smash a like and tell a friend about everything that you guys have seen, especially to the West Indies CPL chat. Go give Machel and Santoki, who's not there with us, some love in their podcast. Right, we won the best of the rest, so let's just continue that. You touched upon it briefly, Nick. Sonny Baker, and him trying to kind of break through the West Indies. The England T20. Ethel kind of getting into the history books with regards to being the youngest ever international captain for England, which is maddening. But come back to the 100. Anything that you guys have spotted this week, which the cricket world wouldn't have? Nick, I'll start with you.
I don't think cricket world wouldn't have, because there isn't much happening. If you haven't caught, please catch Liam Livingstone batting like only he can. Please catch Jordan Cox doing absolutely incredible hitting. Sorry to Dale Saab, who was a bowler in that game. If you saw that game, you know. But it's okay. I think it happens. I'm really excited for Sonny Baker. I can't recall the last time somebody made David Warner miss 5 balls of cricket of a first over, and I was like, "Bhai, to alag planet mein khel raha hai kya? He's bowling here, playing here." So it just tells you. again, exciting talent. I'm not going to jump the gun by saying, right, but it's so good to see young upcoming, young people just finding a way to be experienced people at the other end. So I think that definitely is one of the highlights. Apart from that, I think the usual stuff, oval doing oval things, Birmingham finding a way to stay relevant. Baki to, yeah, the same drill.
Yeah, things which is maddening. I mean, 226 in 100 balls, I think, is a new record that they posted. Jordan Cox, Akshay, apparently 29 ball, 86 that he smoked. You've been watching the 100 women's competition. What's been happening there? I tuned into actually a Lauren Bell interview that Wisden did. I was kind of compelled for more than one reason. But jokes apart, you've been enjoying the women's much more and natural as well. Women's cricket going about. What have you picked up competition this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fantastic on the women's front. Some of the games have been amazing. And right now, as we speak, Oval Invincibles are playing the Southern Brave. Southern Brave are in the middle of a four-match unbeaten streak. In fact, they're the only side unbeaten. And looks like they will be continuing the streak given how they performed today. But Manchester Originals, finally, they registered a win the day before. I'm happy about that. Much needed win. A very closely fought game versus the Northern Superchargers. But all in all, it's been very good over there. I do see a new winner coming up this time around. At least it won't be one of Southern Brave or Oval Invincibles over here at the women's front. But men's front, I must say, loved watching Liam Livingston, that knock over there, 63 of 26. And then even yesterday, bat and ball, 45 of 22 was fantastic to watch. Sonny Baker already, Nikhil has spoken about. Everyone's going gung-ho about him. So I did like what I saw of him. Beautiful action, the pace, of course, and the way he was rushing batters. Yeah, that's always something that excites the cricket fan in all of us. But all in all, yeah, the women's side has 100% been a lot more entertaining than the men's side.
Yeah, I mean, some good games coming through. Look, I called the other. I know people already making fun. I think even right now, if you look at 15 balls, just 700. And well done to everyone. Finally, just want to touch upon this for a minute, guys. If there's nothing really. CPL, DPL, any watchers this week, anything which has happened crazy. Apparently, Mohammad Taha, a name coming out of Karnataka circles, wicketkeeper batter, is doing himself a world of good. APL, Andhra Premier League, I think we might be getting a player, a very, very good player from that league to interview later on this month. I can't tell you whom and where. And then DPL, of course, is taking shape as well. So, Akshay, to you, have you kind of kept your these leagues?
I haven't been watching them, but there are a few players from last season itself that I was looking forward to, and I've been watching a few clips here and there. Mohammad Taha is, I mean, there's no point talking about Mohammad Taha now. That's like, I don't know, talking about Parthiv Patel or Riddhiman Saha now. He's been there for ages. I'm pretty sure he's 32, 33, if not younger. He's fairly old. He's been doing his thing for a while now. But yeah, there's this guy, Ankit Kumar. Yeah, I can't believe last season he went unsold. In fact, Ankit Kumar was the guy last year as well, if any of you remember. Ankit Kumar is the guy I had spoken about very highly. In fact, I still believe he's a much better talent than even Priyansh Arya. He's one to watch out for. Mayank Rawat has been doing really well. And I forgot there was another last year. There were three names for me. There was Ankit Kumar, there was Mayank Rawat, and there was Sujal Singh. None of these three got a bit, and I want to see how all three of them have done. I know Ankit Kumar has been doing really well. We saw him take on Digvej Singh Rathi and hit a few sixes there. That clip sort of got a lot of reach on social media. But apart from that, yeah, it's been a pretty good DPL, and in general, DPL I've always believed is one of the better domestic leagues. You've got pacers bowling in excess of 140. You've got mystery spinners. You've got attacking batters. So yeah, it is exciting to watch. That definitely will catch more on the highlights. Once I'm back home.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that there then with regards to the best of the rest, because we're already kind of reaching 1 hour, 50 minutes in this MNL episode 93. Smash a like and tell a friend about it. And I think we do have a winner from last week's Howzzaat. We'll confirm that with the Quizmaster Akshay, because it's time for Howzzaat. Right, over to you. You had a Sharia sort of house. And how's that turned out?
Shabash. Has he done it? Has he done? Yeah, finally,
No, no,
finally.
no.
Against spoken on mute.
In
Shabash.
my defense, I did unmute myself, or I thought I had unmuted. Galat button दब गया.
उसी को बोलते हैं कि म्यूट पे बात करना है. Anyways, continue.
भाई वाह. Anyways, coming back, graphic, of course. Do either of you want to venture a guess what this is, though?
Josh?
Sibling stuff.
Yeah. No, it isn't. Avnish, first of all, that answer only after, I was done with the episode and I saw comments. I was like, oh, wait, I did not think of that. A lot of people went in that direction. Josh, I was like, wow, that's some very creative thinking. But no, that's not the answer. The answer is, of course, Shah Rukh and Aishwarya were playing siblings in that movie. And this is the list of the only siblings who have played cricket. You see Ed Joyce, who of course is a part of a very illustrious family. He's got that had two brothers and two sisters playing cricket. You've got Gary Delaney and Laura Delaney. You've got Will Sutherland and Annabelle Sutherland. You've got Nathan Asset and his sister, Mrs. Asset. Unfortunately, I forgot what her name is. But yeah, you've got plenty of these. My only question to all the ones guessing Josh, I mean, sure there was Josh Little, but there was no Josh Hazelwood or English. I thought that would have probably be enough of a hint, but unfortunately wasn't to be the case. But a lot of you tried to guess it. There was only one lucky winner, like always, and this time around the winner is Nisha Kesavan. Seems like a new name, a name that I've definitely not seen over here, in our live chat. So congratulations, Nisha, on getting it right. Do get in touch with us on X if you do want to feature on the next episode and talk to us. I mean, we would love to do that. Coming to this week's Howzzaat, there we go. When Asia Cup ends next month, this particular oopsie daisy. Okay, 1 second. I just got a call in the middle of the episode. Where is this? Oops. Yeah, there we go. Apologies. Yeah. When Asia Cup ends next month, this instance would have repeated itself after 3,466 days. And surprisingly, the last instance had occurred only after 398 days. What instance are we talking about here? So once again, for the uninitiated, the first instant happened, of course, at a certain point in time. The second instance happened after 398 days. And the third instance happened after 3,466 days. So there's been a massive gap. So what we want to know is what this instance is that we are talking about over here. Like always, do not key in your answers in the live chat. Please wait for the live stream to end and enter your answers in the main comment section at the end of the live stream. So that's that from this week's Howzzaat. Let's see who gets it right. I'm curious to see what kind of answers will we see this time around. And coming back, Avnish is still not returned or just about in time.
Just in time.
I have. It's a good one because normally when I look at those questions, it reminds me of 10th grade math, X and Y, but some cricket to add into it, which I definitely see a good winner. And a good thing about last week's Howzzaat is that even though it threw people off, we got an absolutely new winner who doesn't feature in our comments. So that's something that I really, really like. Right. Plenty of questions coming in as always in every M&L, and we'll take them right now in the next 5 minutes. We'll peacefully leave the screens, and that features in the 12th man segment with all your lovely questions. Let's go. Oh, right. Sorry, had a right cough there. Cricket Natasha and ask us, why is Maharaja Trophy not allowing crowds? It's in case doing a bad job and not allowing Mysuru guys who got games after 4 or 5 years. I mean, we were actually trying to go there to Mysore to just try to figure out the ground reality of the tournament itself, but for logistical reasons, we couldn't. Akshay, have you heard anything about this in terms of why the crowds are not being allowed?
Yeah, I mean, you can also check out the latest episode of the Women's Cricket Podcast. We've spoken about this briefly there too. But I think it is sort of a very, how do I put it? We should have seen a situation like this coming. Firstly, basically, it's the Karnataka police and the government who refused to provide security, who refused to give in the NOC, which is why, crowds weren't allowed, because if there's no security, then you can't handle these crowds, and then it becomes an even bigger issue. Now, the reason why they haven't, given these approvals, of course, there's a lot of, conversations about this, a lot of reports coming out, a lot of people talking about this. So with the whole situation and the way it panned out on the 4th of June, which led to, a lot of policemen and Karnataka police in general having to bear the brunt of it. They had to sort of come out in the open and they had to accept the blame in some sense. Now it seems like some sort of a tit for tat situation happening where now they don't want to work with KSCA because of all of this. So it's like a huge thing going on over there. Hopefully, these things will resolve in due course. But that's primarily the reason. It's not that the ground wasn't fit to host. It wasn't any of it. There seems to be some sort of like always, there seem to be a lot more things at play over here beyond cricket, things that unfortunately we aren't entirely privy to. So yeah.
Okay. Syed Nizamuddin was hinting upon Gill focusing only on test matches. There's just a 3-day gap, he reminds us, between the Asia Cup and the first test, I think, of the West Indies series. Nick's point there, the fact that no matter the poster boy of Indian cricket, match separate players.
I think it's fairly obvious, and that's also something that we touched upon right at the start. The schedule isn't allowing you to play both the tournaments, and again, it is just not worth uh, trying to change something that's not broken at this point of time. Yes, Gill, I know it's the right bandwagon, right train to be on, but there is time, and there are enough games in the upcoming times to take care of that. And again, maybe this is something that the FTP can be taken care of. Because who else is making the FTP? You are involved when you make the FTP, so you can have either better scheduling or just ensure there's lesser overlap. So that just have to live with it.
Okay. Rishabh Sharma, apologies if we couldn't get this question to Machel, but we'll try to answer it for you all in second guess. I think Gurikesh Moti, Captain Roston Chase, I don't know if he'll start as a frontline spinner, but he's definitely going to be bowling. Nix knows the answers.
Chase Pfeiffer to 100% लिख के ले लो अभी से. I'll note the time for myself. 156.
So who are those two frontline spinners? Say them again, please.
No, I think both Jomel Warrican.
Oh, Jomel
हाँ,
Warrican. Yeah.
Warrican तो I think definitely खेलेगा क्योंकि he's had success against India in the past. Whatever little that you want to attribute to him, तो वो तो definitely खेलेगा. And Chase, India off spinners, bro, we love.
हाँ, और पता भी है जोमेल वॉरिकन अच्छे खासे कीपिंग की क्या करता है, तो वो हमने लास्ट टाइम देखा भी था.
I mean, for more such garden content, we'll wait for the test series.
Nitesh might have a legitimate shout for the Asia Cup, especially if Sanju is not guaranteed a start. And Dheeraj asking Akshay, do you think there's a case for Nitish Parag or even Dubey at 6 or 7 at the Asia Cup, given their ability to bowl 2 overs? Gautam Gambhir's ideology sinks in perfectly. Do you think that could be a ploy?
It depends, man. Nitish, okay, fine, okay. Second, I was thinking Nitish Rana, but yeah, thankfully Nitish NKR also, I don't know, man. Injury.
And then he tells to us that I never prop Nitish. I mean, there is
no, matlab, it's just my bad. Not Dubey for sure, yeah. Dubey se bowling tum agar expect kar rahe ho, to then you've already lost the battle there. With Nitish, injury is still a concern, right? There's a reason, like he had to go back because of injury, so we're not sure if he's fit yet. Riyan Parag was a part of the setup last year. We saw the Bangladesh series and everything, so he could potentially be a part of the squad. The 11, it's hard, man. It's hard because you've seen Akshar Patel, already making a very strong claim for the spot, and I'm pretty sure he won't be missing out. You've got Washi, you've got Vipraj Nigam now coming up the ranks. So there's too many names that which way they go about, like we discussed earlier, there's a very strong argument to be made for almost each of these players. Now it's all about just sticking to what they think would work, and then hopefully the results will also come their way.
Okay.
Just for the record, I would prefer Parag over Sundar as well. I think Parag would solve India's 6-7 problems much more paired with Hardik Pandya as the option, because India had struggles against short bowling. I'm not saying Riyan Parag will pull like Ponting, but he'll get the job done maybe better than Sundar at this point of time.
How all of those things unfold. If news about India, some sort of or alive, we'll figure it out for you. Right, time to wrap up proceedings on MNL. Freaking awesome, throw in this little gentle reminder that there is England, South Africa, the white ball series going to happen. I think starts 1st September on worry about that because we've got an absolute white ball which will feature on our latest exclusive. Spoken about. It's a great chat that comes out soon on cricket.com and plenty of other things, including Akshay's women's podcast, Bear Tuck, like I said, so on and so forth. If you guys like this chat, please smash a like and share it to all the friends. Ashutosh, thank you for this particular comment. Really, really appreciate that. We'll leave it there. Akshay, good luck with everything in Ireland. And Nicola, and have a great week, everyone. It's been fantastic to talk to you all, and interacting as ever is cricket.com's delight. See you, boys. Where's the end screen? It's here.